Hi guys, today I want to tell you the story about how I met Chad. I met him online. I met him on a website called Plenty of Fish, and I met him in 2006 when online dating was something you didn't really talk about, you didn't really do, you didn't really tell anyone you were doing. You were kind of embarrassed that you were doing it, and you hoped that you didn't get killed on a date. I'll tell you kind of what led up to me joining an online dating service, and then how I ended up meeting Chad and how I knew he was different from all of the other guys that I had met. When I was in university, I was single for pretty much the entire time I was in university. I've shared a little bit in the past that I had a lot of anxiety, and that even trickled into my dating life. And toward the end of my university career, I actually met a guy the non-online online dating way. Like, I actually met him in real life. He was super good looking. He was a nice guy. He was lots of fun. And we dated for about maybe a little over a year. And I just kind of knew that he wasn't the one. He was a lot of fun. But he just wasn't going to be my husband. And I kind of ended things because I knew that, and I didn't want to string him along, and I didn't want to waste my time. But then I was kind of left between a rock and a hard place because I'm like, okay, now I got to find the guy. And yes, whatever, I was looking for a husband. I don't know, I didn't want to waste time, I just kind of wanted to get going on things. So at this point, I was probably 22. I had just graduated from my undergrad at university, and I thought, it's a good time to meet someone. I was feeling a little bit better about myself, kind of got over some of that anxiety, and I decided to start dating online. And again, this was the time when people were really not doing it. And the hard part about people not dating online is that the pool is significantly smaller. Like, you have a lot of the early adopters on there, but you have way less guys. So to the people who are doing online dating today, you got way more people to work with, and that's kind of a good thing. I had a limited pool. So anyway, I went on this one particular website. It was a pay website, and it was fairly niche, if you will, and it was local to the area that I lived. And I kind of started meeting people who people I knew, and they're like, where did you go to camp? Who are your parents? Who's your cousin? Who's this? Who's that? And I was like, okay, no, I don't like this situation, because the community that I grew up in is a pretty small, tight-knit group. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and I just kind of wanted to get out of that. That wasn't really my vibe. And I had seen different things for myself. So I went out on a few dates from that website, and it was literally that, like, where do you get your bagels? Who's your cousin? What camp did you go to? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want this conversation. This is not going to be the rest of my life. So I pulled my profile down off that website, kept my money in my pocket, which I was way happier about, and I looked for a free dating website, because those were available at the time, but they were considered the sketchier way to do your online dating. But whatever, I just did it. I was like, gonna meet someone, it's fine-ish. And I ended up putting a profile together, and just some tips and advice. When you are putting a dating profile together, be honest. Like, just be honest. Don't lie, don't BS, don't lie about your weight, don't lie about your height, don't lie about your job, don't lie about anything. Be honest, because if somebody's scrolling and they see you and you are not who you say you are, and then they go out on a date and they kind of like the version of you that you portrayed online, and then they meet someone else, it's so repulsive. Like, that's just a deal killer right there. They're not going to secretly fall in love with you, the real you, after they meet you. You want to give people a really clear idea of what they're getting. And if they don't like you for who you are on your profile when you're honest, they're not going to like you in person, and they don't deserve you. So just be honest. So I took my own advice. I was super honest, and I'm just like, this is me. These are some recent pictures of me. This is exactly how I look. I gave full body shots, head to toe, so you know what you're getting. This is what I look like. And that was that. And I felt like, in being honest that way, I didn't have to worry about someone being like, oh, she does not look like what she looked like in her picture, because that would, I think, be kind of devastating. This, just you are who you are. I put this profile together and I was 23 at the time, so I think I set my age range up to 30. So I was cool with a 7-year age difference above how old I was. And I'm sort of a more mature woman, and even when I was young, I always knew that I wanted to date an older guy. Not like granddaddy, but an older guy, you know, someone who's a little bit more mature. That kind of felt like the right thing for me. So I set that, and actually, I don't even think I put on my profile that I wanted to date anyone my own age, because, yeah, it wasn't gonna happen. I started to scroll through, and I have to admit, like, it's a little bit addictive when you first start getting onto these dating websites. You wanna see everyone, and you can obsess over this. I seriously remember spending hours going through profiles. And to be honest, it was kind of fun. And back in those days, so the site I went on was Plenty of Fish. So back in those days, if you liked someone, you could kind of message them off the platform, which nowadays would never happen. But back then we used MSN Messenger, which does not exist anymore. What? It worked back in the day, and it was perfectly functional, and it was wonderful. So you would send someone your handle, and then you would kind of chat off the platform, and then if things sounded or felt good, you would go out on a date. I had this profile going, I got some stuff going in my inbox, I put out some messages, and I started to go on dates. And I met some really interesting guys. One guy was so funny on his, like, when we were chatting. Like, on the chat, he was hysterical, cracked all the jokes. Like, it was like dating like a real comedian, or not dating, but like talking to a real comedian. He was hysterical. And I'm like, I gotta meet this guy, his picture's cute, he's funny as whatever, I gotta see him. So we go on a date, we go to a bar, I'm feeling good, I meet him, he is way shorter than he said he was, which fine, I don't care. But you know what? Again, it goes back to that honesty thing. If you're lying about your height, what else are you lying about? So we have this date, and I don't know if this guy was nervous. I don't know if his friend was feeding him lines when he was on Messenger, but this guy was like the driest of dry, like no humor, like, you know when you snap an elastic band and it just cracks because it's so old and dry? Like, that's literally what I was sitting across from. And I remember we went to a martini bar in Toronto, and I was enjoying the drink more than I was enjoying his company, and I opted to end the date early. I'm like, so, it's been fun. You. That was it. We just kind of ended the date, and get this, the guy asked me for a lift home. So, cross that off the list. Another interesting guy I went out with, he was maybe 31 at the time, and he was like Mr. Business and like was a big time banker. And I thought, oh yeah, this guy could be interesting. It seems like he's successful, and that was really important to me. But then the way he was talking just seemed like he wasn't for equality. Like, he just didn't seem like he could appreciate that I had my own goals and that I wanted to achieve my own things in life. And not having that, that felt like a detriment to me right off the bat. So despite the fact that he lived this really nice, lavish life, I was like, yeah, I can't continue to pursue dating this guy. It's just not gonna work. I chatted with a lot of guys online. A few of them I decided, okay, yeah, maybe we'll go out on a date with. There was another guy who I went out with. He was some computery something or other, and he worked at IBM, and I thought, okay, another guy, pretty successful. He was a little bit older, and he was telling me that he was spending time at his cottage. And what you guys don't know is I went to overnight camp when I was growing up in cottage country in Ontario, in a little place called Haliburton. So for those of you guys who know Ontario, it was a really great, beautiful camp in Haliburton. And this guy had a cottage in Haliburton. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. Haliburton's amazing. We go out on this date, it was in the summer, and we go to this bar, and I like to drink. I really enjoy a drink. And, to be honest, rarely will I be in a situation where I leave a drink before it's finished. Like, something really has to be not good. So him and I were on this date. I order my favorite drink. We're sitting there, we're chatting, and this guy is so boring. I mean, so boring, that he started to tell me about the roadkill that he started to see on his drive to Haliburton. Not impressed. That wasn't a good topic of conversation. I just looked at him and I was like, honestly, I think I'm gonna go. And I just stood up and I left. And I realized, guys, my time and dating, I kind of treated it, I don't want to say I treated it like a business, but I was very business about it. I didn't want to waste his time. I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't want to be unfair to him. I thanked him and I left, and that was that. Didn't talk to him again. But I went home and, I was talking with some other guys that night, and I ended up going on a second date that night. And this guy tells me he's 6 feet tall, he's a professional soccer player, his picture looked really nice. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, let's see this. And I was excited. And I go and I meet him, and he fully lied about his height. He looked like 10 years older than he looked in his picture. He played soccer, but didn't play soccer anymore, and had something else going on that was totally not interesting and up my alley. And I'm like, okay, again, lying about many things and totally not interesting. I kind of ended that date too. And there were some other ones in there, but those are sort of the more memorable ones that stuck out. And I thought, okay, I'm kind of a little bit up to here right now with this online dating thing, because it's a lot. Emotionally, you're investing a lot of time. You want to look good. In your head, you're like, could this be the one? I'm excited. He was cool. How's this going to go? And you think yeah, maybe this is going to be it. Maybe this will be the guy. And then you go out on the date, and the disappointment, I don't know, eventually you kind of don't carry as much weight you don't put as much weight on one date, but I was doing that. All the dates were so important to me, and it just sort of felt emotionally exhausting. I was messaging and kind of looking through profiles, and I found this one guy, and he was 29, so he was a little bit, just under the 30 age cutoff that I had put in. And I read his profile and I saw his picture, and he was really tall. He was 6'5", and I'm like, okay, I like this. And then I was reading his profile, and it was kind of funny. And he said he was an entrepreneur, and I'm like, great, because I want to be an entrepreneur, and this could kind of work out. So I sent him a message, and as it turns out, I was younger than his cutoff, which was 25 years old, so he never would have seen my profile. So ladies, just a quick heads up, reach out to men. Don't wait for them to reach out to you, because you never know. Anyway, I took a risk. I reached out and I told him that this was my pickup line. You're really photogenic, because he took a good picture. Anyway, so he got back to me and we started talking. First on MSN Messenger, and then we started emailing back and forth, and the emails kind of got pretty intense pretty quickly. And then we ended up having a phone call. And I remember this phone call, my mom and sister went out grocery shopping, and I timed it such that they would not be home, because they were so nosy when we lived together, that I could just have this phone call in the privacy of my own home. We decided, we had a really good conversation, and we were both like, okay, let's go out on a date and see what happens. We go out on this date. We meet Midtown in Toronto, which was close to where he was living at the time. I just remember seeing him for the first time, and I'm like, yep, that's the picture, that's the guy. And I remember he stood up and he was wearing all white, which I thought was pretty, fashionable. It looked pretty good. I mean, for 2006, it was a little post NSYNC, so it was still kind of working. Today, I don't know if he could pull that outfit off, but it really worked well back then. His hair looked nice. He looked nice. He was so sweet. He stood up, he said hi, and it was Chad. And we sat down and we chatted, and we really hit it off, and it felt different from the other dates. We had a great conversation. I was laughing, he was laughing. We got along really well. Neither of us were drinking copious amounts of alcohol. So like I said, I really enjoy drinks. I think it definitely takes the edge off. If you're nervous and you're on a first date, it can kind of get things flowing. But definitely have a limit. I would just have one drink. A, because I was driving home, so I needed to make sure I was able to drive, and I would drink a lot of water after. And B, because you don't want to make yourself look like a fool. You don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to get yourself in a compromising situation. And I'm kind of like a safety cop. So I'm always of the mentality that I want to make sure that I'm careful and safe, and that I don't put myself in a position where I could expose myself to danger. And clearly, if you're intoxicated on a first date, you never know, and whatever. So that's kind of my rule. Anyway, we had a great time. We ended up shutting the bar down that night. I think we went home at around 2:30. There were a couple things about Chad that I wasn't so sure about. He smoked cigarettes at the time, and that was really not a thing for me at all. I was kind of really not into that situation, but thankfully later on in our relationship, Chad decided to quit smoking for good, and he hasn't smoked in years and years, and I'm super proud of him because I know that that was a tough thing to kick. But I knew, I'm like, okay, smoking, like, if things become serious, I'm sure we can have a conversation about that. Yeah, actually, I don't know what else it was. I think that was really kind of the only thing that I was a little unsure about. But he kindly walked me to my car. There was no weirdness. There was no like weird kissing. We just had like a really good conversation, and we hugged, and we were really excited to see each other the next time. He had had a series of really bad dates too. And we both kind of joked and said, yeah, you know, this was kind of like the last date I was going to go out on, and then I was going to pull my profile down for a while. And we both had said that to one another. So it was kind of interesting that that happened. At that date, we planned to see each other a couple days later. So we went out on another date. Shortly thereafter, we went out on another date. You know, like we probably saw each other maybe 3 times in a week. And from there, our relationship just blossomed very quickly. And we met on June the 9th. That was our first date. So it's kind of funny I'm putting this video out now because it's right around the time that we met. So this will be the, you know, our 11-year anniversary of us dating-ish. I mean, we're married now, but dating. It didn't take very long. I went on a trip to Europe for 3 weeks in August. I had saved up all my vacation time, and I took off for these 3 weeks. And Chad drove me to the airport, and he took me to Swiss Chalet. So for those of you who are Canadian, you know Swiss Chalet. And for those of you who aren't, it's kind of like, it's like a rotisserie chicken restaurant. It's a good place. And they had one at the airport, and we sat down, and Chad gave me a card. And the card was like the sweetest, nicest, most lovely card. And he said in the card that he loved me. And that didn't take long at all. And I mean, how hard is it to like get that and like all the feels, and then you go away for 3 weeks? Like, it was such a hard trip to, I mean, it was an amazing trip, but it was so hard to be away from him. And that's the longest we've been away from each other ever since. That was the last date either of us went on. We pulled our profiles down off Plenty of Fish. And in 2011, we got married. And that is our story. That's how I met my husband online. And, you know, I peppered some advice in there about online dating too. And I know things are different these days with Tinder. And guys, I'll be honest, I've seen Tinder and it looks hard. So increasingly people, oh, Molly just fell off the couch. That was a sad moment for her. Increasingly, we're judging each other more and more and more about what pictures look like. But from what I can tell you, you know, if you're honest in your picture and you put like just an honest photo of yourself out there, I think somebody who sees your true beauty will be attracted to you regardless of what the photo look. I mean, don't put your worst like double chin picture up there. Like, put a nice picture up there. But I think, you know, if you put up a great photo and it just looks like you, but it's not you like done up times 7, you know, it's just you. I think that's the best way to go. I will tell you, I feel a lot of compassion for you guys who are doing online dating with swiping apps, because it just feels super judgy, even more so than the online dating I was doing. And I hope that some of the info that I shared with you is somewhat helpful in terms of how to get you guys on your way for some good dates. And I'd love to know in the comments down below, what are your online dating experiences? How do you stay sane? How do you know how to weed someone out? Have you ever had to cut someone off in the middle of a date and just be like, bye, and walk out? And not that I'm dating anytime soon, but I just think it's interesting to read the comments and to share stories. So definitely let me know that stuff in the comments down below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little sneak peek into mine and Chad's dating and meeting and kind of marriage story. Of course, there's so much more in there, but I just thought this might be a fun thing to share in honor of our upcoming 11-year anniversary. Come in here, bring it in, bring it in. He's over here, he's watching the camera. There he is. 11 years, can you believe it?
It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. Look how cute he is. You see, I just saw this little profile and I knew I saw this nose and these beautiful eyes, and I was just like, yeah, this is my guy. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like this, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do more videos like this. Definitely give it a thumbs up. That always helps. And subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And I'm going to try to put them out on a more consistent basis. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.